Very much, Sagi. I'd like to thank the organizer for putting up this important and timely conference. What I'd like to do first to introduce ourselves. Eco Energy is a financial, economic consulting company, also dealing with regulation and geopolitics, especially internationally, and also here in Israel, lately also in Cyprus, Greece, Eastern Mediterranean. Also specializing in Middle East energy, active in several Arab countries as consultant to the World Bank and other organizations, Jordan, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt included. I'd like to focus and to share, not to speak much on the benefits of natural gas penetration. Much has been discussed, and Sagi just highlighted one figure, the current long-time benefits, prospective benefits of natural gas utilization if found all of those resources in the region. I'd like to focus on the risks on the one hand and some of the potential for the region and some lessons that can be learned for Israel, for Cyprus, other countries in the region. First, we are blessed after so many years to find Noble Energy, Delek, and their partners were able to allocate two of the largest gas discoveries in the past decade. In fact, the largest, the Tamar field and the Leviathan field, 90 and 135 kilometers offshore in Israel. And one must say that we are lucky, Israel is lucky, to have Noble Energy as the operator that is developing those fields, and also the current depleting field of the Mary B, the 30C group field, which is depleting quicker than anticipated due to very rush utilization of this field. By the way, by direction of the government, too quick depletion because of too quick utilization of the gas in this field. So this field was developed in 2003, started to supply gas in 2004. And we are very lucky in this respect that the Tamar field is supposed to start delivering gas next year, possibly the second quarter of next year. So here, Noble Energy should be saluted, and their partners, for developing such a field in a world record time. This is less than 3 years from the field final investment decision that took place in 2010 to develop this field. Unfortunately, it could have been done about a year earlier, entry point to the nation should have been at the northern part of the country, just south to Haifa, but because of a major problem that we are experiencing all around the world, the NIMBY, not in my backyard, local population, environmental groups, and other, possibly rightly so, from their point of view, demanded that the gas treatment facility will not be in their neighborhoods. The developers had to do a major turn and to install a pipeline 150 kilometers south to develop a new platform, which is being constructed these days in Texas, will be erected by the end of the year here, just adjacent to the existing platform of the Mary B depleting field with a one pipeline entry point to Ashdod. Now think about that. What have we learned from the experience that we have with Egypt, the heart of the seas of the gas? For the next 5 years, Israel is going to be solely dependent on one field, 5 producing wells, one pipeline, one treatment facility offshore, one entry pipeline and treatment facility, receiving terminal in Ashdod, for producing about 70% of the electricity, supplying most of the gas of the fuel for industry and for other users, those of you who are staying in the hotels in Tel Aviv and others, hospitals and so on. For it will take at least 5 years to develop additional entry. So very quick development that should be saluted, but a major energy security risk. And this is not only, I would say, energy security, it's a national security risk. Because what will happen in the next 5 years is that since we are rushing so quickly, I will see in a minute, to natural gas, one may say too quickly, without major insurance precautionary measures to deal in times that gas might not flow from this field. And gas might not flow for several reasons. The first reason are technical problems, and technical problems occur. We studied offshore fields in the North Sea, in the Gulf of Mexico, and there is no precedent to a platform, a field that does not obtain some technical problems in its operation. It might be 1 hour, it might be 1 week, it might be 1 month, or several years if there is a hurricane or an earthquake, as some of the offshore gas fields in the Gulf of Mexico still not operating after the Katrina and Rita hurricanes. And this region is earthquake prone. Just about a month and a half ago, between Lebanon and Cyprus, 50 kilometers north to Tamar, there was a major, not major, but about a 5-degree earthquake. So this should be taken into consideration. Also, those two platforms, adjacent platform, just 20 kilometers offshore Gaza, with the possibilities of Grad missiles and Scud missiles, which should be protected. So, not sure whether an Iron Shield anti-missile missile unit would protect them. And of course, Israeli Navy, not only those platforms, but also other rigs, several simultaneous rigs that will continue to explore for gas. So, which means higher cost for security, which will come basically to the Navy, to the Defense Ministry. From where? From which sources? Is it going to come from the National Sovereign Fund, which is going to be developed? Most likely not, although much fund, tens and possibly more millions of dollars per year in increasing the budget of the Navy just to protect, and to the Israeli IDF, possibly Air Force as well, just to protect those facilities. So if there's going to be a technical problem or a strategic problem which will cause a cease of the flow of the gas in the next 5 years, we are in a major problem. And not only that all or most of the power plants are dual fuel, this is not enough. In 2-3 years' time, if there is a major cease in gas flow from this field, we'll most likely sit in the dark. And that's going to be most likely the case. And here, the government, in this respect, lost many degrees of freedom, since we don't have much backup, at least for LNG, I'll show in a minute, marginal quantities of LNG importation. And not all the gas-fired dual fuel power stations could be dually fueled in this respect. So there is a major need to develop additional entry point from Leviathan and Tamar to the north of the country, and it is very important that the government will take the role here also in financing those such an entry, and later on additional entry. So the diversification of sources is a must. And this is also a very important lesson for Cyprus, that in few years' time, possibly the Aphrodite field will be developed, possibly additional gas fields that might be found there. And dual fuel is a must, just to take care that a reliance on one major gas field is not enough. Now, Israel is also breaking a world record and shifting to gas. Here is our reference case, not the latest one, but just to show of the increase in demand for power generation, about doubling, almost doubling in a period of 20 years' time. Here we have the focus until 2025. Until 8 years ago, we didn't have gas at all, so it was a two fuels power generation, 80% coal, 20% oil, heavy fuel oil, and gas oil. Natural gas penetration, 2004, and by the end of the decade, we anticipate, even before that, about 70% gas. Coal is going to diminish to about 20-25%, and renewable energy, especially solar energy, starting to penetrate. Much depends on government policy in this respect. So here, it's a world record in shifting to a power sector to gas. And as mentioned, with all the benefits of that, relatively lower prices, $5 to $6 per million BTU versus $18 to $25 per million BTU recent prices for heavy fuel oil and gas oil. So it's a major benefit not to speak on the environmental benefit and the energy security benefit, but we also show the other risks, the energy security risks, which result from being based on one source of gas for a long period of time. So cost and benefits. In this respect, such as Europe is very much dependent, or 35 to 40% dependency on Russian gas, and Russia stopped the flow of gas 6 times since the 1st of January 2006. And the Europeans are also looking for diversification of sources, also looking with the hope for getting some gas from Israel, possibly from Cyprus. I'll say a word in a minute about that. Natural gas demand. So these days we are experiencing a shortage in gas, but very quickly in 2013 already have not sufficient gas to supply all demand. We're going to experience shortage, although Tamar field is going to be developed, because the capacity of the pipelines are not sufficient to deliver until going to be additional entry to the countries. The pipelines which will bring the gas from the Tamar field are not sufficient to deliver all the demand for the anticipated gas, so the government will need to come with some type of regulation how to control the flow of gas to the various users, whether to favor electricity or industry. So some quotas should be allocated in this respect. One of the issues, one of the measures to enhance gas deliveries is the introduction.
That's the yellow part.
Okay, 2 minutes. The introduction of LNG later on this year by FSIU, Floating Storage Regasification Unit, which will be anchored 10 kilometers offshore Hedera, and we'll need to upload LNG from an LNG tanker in the EEZ of Cyprus. This is for insurance and geopolitical considerations as well, because LNG tankers are not willing to get into the territorial Israeli water. So another consideration of Israel. And here our call to the government to purchase 2 such tankers, one with a regasification unit connected to a buoy, and one running under Israeli or other flag for 20, 30 years' time as a backup for natural gas security to supply gas to the nation. One issue, one word about possible exports. The highest priority to export gas from an LNG facility that will be located onshore in Israel, possibly in Eilat and Ashkelon. That's the highest priority for Israel to benefit the job creation and the economic multiplier effect for having such a facility in Israel. I'm not sure. We hope so. We have to do the best. It should be a national priority. Not sure that due to NIMBY effect, not in the backyard, and opposition of local population, environmental groups, this will occur. Otherwise, I think it is very important to connect the Leviathan to Aphrodite field, possibly to liquefy gas in Vasilikos in Cyprus in a mutual project, which will most likely cost something between $8 to $12 billion with facilitation of major international company. And other possibilities to export gas, a new technology of FLNG, floating LNG terminals, a new concept in the world. All the eyes are these days to Royal Dutch Shell, which is developing the first project to be allocated offshore in the Purdue area in Cyprus. I believe that later on this decade, early next decade, such project could be implemented also offshore Israel. And last word about a vision. I truly think that Israel can be a model to shift much of its transportation to natural gas. It's a tiny country, very small country. We already see the first project being introduced this year, a better place, electric cars. And in this respect, think about that, since Israel, electricity is going to be mostly based, 70, some say 80% on natural gas. So you utilize natural gas to produce power to charge batteries. Also CNG, compressed natural gas, a well-known veteran technology, millions of cars in the world like that. I'm a great believer in methanol. Methanol can be produced from methane gas, from natural gas, to fuel cars. There are 10,000 of cars already running on methanol, and that can be produced also in Israel. And possibly in the long run, not sure that it's going to be economically to produce in Israel, is gas to liquids, gasoline and diesel can be produced and are already produced by Shell and others in the world from natural gas. So in a generation time, I truly believe that we can shift much of our auto fleet to natural gas, as well as other nations, very cheap gas in the US and other places. And in this respect, also in a long-term vision, if you're talking on electric cars, so it's also utilizing the sun to produce electricity to charge batteries. In a generation time, in 20 to 30 years time, I truly think that we can demonstrate shifting much of our electricity to lower our dependency on oil. So here's some thought, some food for thought, and some vision for the future. Thank you very much.